So as you can see, I do not have night sights on my home defense handgun. For my application, and I think for a lot of applications, they're completely worthless. So if I had night sights on the top of my gun right here, we'd see 3 glowing dots of some kind, okay? But alright, let's go pick a target. In darkness, where's the target? With a weapon light, there's the target. You're responsible for all the shots you fire. Even if you're defending your own life, you're responsible for where every single bullet goes, morally and legally. So if you merely have night sights in your gun and you need to clear your house, how are you going to do that? Get the camera to focus here. Okay, so with the weapon light, if we need to actually clear a dark area, we can do that. There's no question. There's no doubt. There's no shooting the wrong thing. It's just light. And with 154 lumens, this is bright enough to temporarily blind someone. So if we're going to round a corner and put it in their face, think about what happens when somebody puts a bright light in your face. What do? You look away. Okay? So seconds matter. And that's it. You're alive and the intruder's dead. So you can see why having a laser and weapon light on your gun is a huge advantage in a low light or completely dark situation. And there's no shortage of situations where there's less than enough light. Now, in the daytime, the laser isn't such an advantage. And we'll go to a clip in a second and show you in broad daylight with the laser on different colored clothing. But you know, in a lot of situations where you have to defend yourself, it's going to be indoors, maybe in your home especially, or inside of a business, say a gas station. Any indoor situation, even if it's well lit, the laser is going to be easily visible. And you have that big advantage. You have to think about a situation where you actually have to defend yourself and draw your gun. It's going to be seconds. It's not going to be minutes. It's not going to be tens of seconds. It's going to be 2, 3, or 4 seconds. Typically at most. It unfolds very quickly. It's not a discussion. There's no time to think. There's very little time to sit there and try to line up your sights. Most shots are going to be made simply by indexing or at least getting, you know, your front sight on that target. It's going to be probably very close range, within a yard or 2, 3 or 4 at max. Usually, just depends. But you think about it, you walk into a gas station and somebody walks in behind you and pulls a gun to you know, basically rob the place. So now you have to decide if you're going to fight or not. And you might be in that situation where you have to, because say maybe now he's gotten the money, but he's still putting the gun in your face or other people's faces. So maybe you have the element of surprise because he's not looking at you, maybe you don't. Your adrenaline's going to be going, your heart rate's going to be jacked. Your fine motor skills are going to be out the window. Just because of your fight or flight response, your eyes are going to be fixed on the threat. It's going to be very difficult for you to remove your eyes from the threat to try to acquire your front sight. It's just human instinct. It's adrenaline. It's natural. So if you turn your laser on before you even acquire your sights, you're going to see the laser. Your eyes are going to be on the threat, and you're going to see the green dot. And if necessary, you squeeze the trigger, and the problem goes away. The point of it is you more quickly can get on target, and you can be a lot more sure of your shot placement with a laser of any kind on your gun. It's a huge advantage that could save your life.
Now here we are outside with a green laser versus a red laser side by side. I don't have the gun width, we just have the lasers. You can see on the green coat on the bottom right, the green laser is more visible than the red laser in daylight conditions. On the white shirt, neither were visible enough to be usable. You can see the wind blowing, and I have to have my shirts pinned to my car door. I've muted the audio so you don't have all the microphone noise, and I'm narrating over the top of it. But it's a little later in the year. There is some cloud cover, so it's not as bright out as it could be. However, even still in this condition, the green laser is, in fact, more visible than the red laser is. It's not because the green laser is more powerful, it's not higher output, they're both the same. It's just that it's a different color, and your eye can more easily see green than it can red, for whatever reason. Now, in daylight conditions, I wouldn't necessarily want to have to depend on a laser, simply because there isn't enough contrast and it's slow to pick up that dot. Even with the pulse mode, as you can see here on the blue shirt on the left, that pulse, while it does make it quicker to acquire that dot on your target, you can't always control what color shirt somebody's going to be wearing. And if it's too sunny out, you're not going to see the dot at all. So you can't be completely dependent on it. You need to be able to use your handgun in a traditional way, using your iron sights or indexing your target or what have you, because, like I said, you can't pick what color shirt somebody's going to be wearing. If there's not enough contrast on that person's shirt, you're screwed if you're depending on your laser.
Now, for all the problems that a laser sight and LED weapon lights solve, it creates a new problem, which is that as you're shining your light and walking through the halls of your house or going from room to room, okay, obviously you always want to stay in a position of cover or concealment if possible and just hold your position, call 911, whatever, but that's not always feasible. So if you, for whatever reason, need to now go search through your house, as this light reflects off the walls in front of you, if there is an intruder, they're going to be able to telegraph your position based on how this light's reflecting off the walls, the floor. Here's a video example, kind of dramatized, of that happening. So obviously, as you can see, when you're going from room to room or about to round a corner, you don't want to just sit there and sweep from side to side real slow with the light, because it makes it just painfully obvious where you're coming from and how close you are. Now, for those of you who have photosensitive epilepsy, I should warn you that going forward in this video, there's going to be some moments where there's going to be some intense strobe lights, flashing lights. So if strobe lights can cause you to have a seizure, well, you've been warned. You see there's different cycles in this, we'll talk about each of them, but with a flashing strobe light, okay, it makes it more difficult for someone to telegraph where you're coming from. Also, now here comes a strobe, okay, you put a strobe in somebody's face at night, first of all, that's going to blind them just the same, at least temporarily, as the normal light would. But it's also going to be really confusing. Seconds matter in these situations. So that strobe light really helps prevent them from telegraphing your position as easily. Now when you get close up like I am on this coffee table, you can still telegraph it quite easily. Here's an example at night of what the strobe looks like. Now the pulse mode is certain to disorient anyone. Even disorients me a little bit while I'm trying to make this video. But you can imagine breaking into a house to find a homeowner putting this in your face. Now, even with the strobe, you're not going to want to just sit there and sweep from side to side on your walls. You'll want to move it around as much as possible. You'll see, if you ever watch videos of police or whatever law enforcement actually going into a house, training or in a real situation, and they're clearing rooms, you see them, let me just cycle this real quick, you'll see them turning their light on and off, sweep, turn it on, turn it off. Just this helps, again, prevent anyone from telegraphing exactly where they are. Now for the average person to sit here and turn it on and off, well, what happens when it's off? What prevents somebody from jumping out at you? That's a perfect opportunity, and the average homeowner isn't going to undergo the kind of training and skill development that law enforcement would. So that strobe light helps solve that problem at least a little bit. The Viridian X5L has a handful of different modes for different situations or preferences. So we'll just run through those real quick. The first one is a solid green laser. The next one is the solid green laser with the solid white light. The next, solid laser with the light strobing. The next, no light and then the laser pulsing. The next is the solid white light with still the pulsing laser. And then the next is no laser and just simply the LED light. And that's all of them. Out of the box, your X5L is almost going to be ready to go. It's as simple as it gets, really. It comes with a little bit of literature here in your owner's manual, but you'll need to attach these rail mounting sets here, which is easy enough. It's just a little screw on each side, and it comes with the Allen wrenches that you need. It comes with 2 of these, your rail mount screws, to attach to your gun. And it also comes with Allen wrenches to adjust the windage and elevation. Now your elevation screws right here on the bottom takes the laser up and down, and then your windage takes it left and right. So, and then to put it on the gun itself, you just slide it on and then insert your screw. And it'll fit different guns differently, so there's 3 different points at which you can set that screw through there. But I just tighten it down a little bit. It doesn't need to be real tight. What does need to be tight actually is your battery compartment, which is right in here. It takes these CR123A batteries, which are pretty common. You can get them at almost any store that sells batteries, and they last long enough. But if you don't have this on there tight enough, some people have reported problems with actually being able to turn on the light. So if it's on there loose, and I haven't really had the problem myself. We'll see there, it won't turn on. You see that? Okay, so this does need to be tight, and then once it is tight, you're not going to have an issue turning it on or off. But the unit itself is pretty durable, and I bang it around quite a bit. I don't care. This is a weapon light, so it's part of a fighting system. It needs to be durable. You can see I have some dings right here, right by the X5L. You see that? But other than that, the rest of it is aircraft grade aluminum. And you know, this gets thrown in and out of drawers and smacked around, and it looks like there's a couple little scuffs right there. And like I said, I don't care. It just needs to work. It's not meant to be pretty. But I haven't had any issues whatsoever with reliability. And I've had it now for 6 or 7 months. I have about 1,000 rounds through it. It gets turned on and off quite often throughout the week. I do go to the range with it. I do shoot with it. So I've had no issues whatsoever. I'm very happy with it. One of the big Viridian features is what they call their ECR system, which is short for Enhanced Combat Readiness. And it's a feature that you find with their holsters from Viridian. Now, this is their TacLoc holster, and it's made by Blackhawk. You can see right here. Blackhawk, a very reputable company. They made a very durable, well-made Kydex holster that's highly adjustable. You can adjust the tension on the side here, and you can change the cant or the angle the gun sits in your belt. And this will accept a belt up to 2 1/4 inches wide. So now this is a level 2 holster, which means there's a button you actually have to press in order to draw the gun. It's just not in there with tension. Okay, you can't just pull it. You have to press the button, which is good. That way, if you're in some kind of altercation, somebody can't as easily steal the gun away from you. Now, the big feature here, I'll show you, we'll turn the light on and holster the gun. It turns off. But then when you draw the gun, it turns on automatically, and it indexes your finger right on the side of the gun. So, you know, if you need to go from here to the trigger, it's as simple as that. You needed to turn your light off, back on, whatever you have to do. But now, if you don't have the light on and you holster it, it's not going to turn it on automatically. You have to remember to turn it on when you actually holster your gun. And whatever setting you have it in, pulse, what have you, it's going to remember the setting. And then as soon as you draw it, there it is, it's on. One less thing to think about. Now, they make these for their X5L, for various different handgun models, as well as the C5L, the more compact version. As of right now, they don't make this in a left-handed version. Hopefully that'll change in the future, so you lefties out there have this option available to you as well. Now, having a laser on your gun isn't exactly like the movies, because you're really not going to be using this for extreme precision shooting, and that's not what they're meant for. They're meant for you to more quickly acquire your target. The reason it's not really practical for very precise shooting is that you have parallax. What parallax is essentially the difference between your point of impact and your point of aim. Now your barrel, where your bullet comes out in roughly a straight line, is not the same as where your laser is shining out. So that means with your bullet coming out here, the laser being down here, if you're going to zero this, the laser needs to be angled up to meet the path of the bullet. So at a short range, that angle has to be greater. Okay? So if you take that out, then at a further range, zeroed for a close range like this, your point of aim is going to be well above your point of impact.
Here's a good example of parallax where distance affects the point of aim versus the point of impact. So we close in from 25 yards, these two dots will close. The red dot is a laser bore sight inside the barrel of my gun. The green dot is the Viridian laser. We were at 25 yards. The Viridian laser is zeroed at 10 yards, which we're closing in on now. Now, were we to keep going beyond this, you see the red dot would actually reverse and go above the green dot. So remember, the laser sight is sitting underneath the barrel on the gun.
So what you do with these is you zero these for a defensive range, something, roughly 10 yards, and that's good enough. And to zero it really is pretty simple because your gun is going to have sights on it. Okay? So then with the gun, you simply line the laser up with your sights. It's not an exact science, but right there it is. Okay? So now if I needed to use this to defend myself, I'm going to hit my target and it's going to be close enough. It'll be center mass and it'll get the job done.
So as we're about to see here, it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly zeroed. Again, this isn't supposed to be a precise instrument. This is to get your sight on target faster, to get that green dot on your target. So even if it's zeroed high or low, it's not perfect, it's fine. As long as it's close enough, it's going to be an effective weapon, period. Now when you take the time to zero the laser for the distance you're at, it's a valuable training tool because it really highlights every single mistake that you make as a shooter. Whether it's a trigger or whatever you're doing that causes you to miss, there's no excuses because if it's zeroed correctly, that bullet is going to hit wherever that green dot is pointing at. So when you do play your role as the shooter, shot after shot after shot will be a bullseye or right next to it. But when you miss, you can really tell why. It's jerking the trigger. That's really 90% of it. When you miss, it's because you jerk the trigger. Here it goes again. Watch the first shot. You see the laser, it just bumped down to the left. And now you see there's 3 shots almost in the same hole. If you play your role, you zero the laser correctly, it's going to be incredibly accurate. It's just in a defensive situation, you can never account for the exact distance the threat's going to be at.
Now, if absolute precision is important to you, like it's important to me in a home defense situation, there's a solution because all you need to do is anticipate the distance between you and your target. And if possible, you should be hiding behind cover or concealment if somebody breaks in. Obviously, in some situations, people would need to go secure the kids or, just whatever, and they would have to go from room to room or down a hallway or something. But if at all possible, you should plan this out so you can hide behind cover or concealment. And then you should also figure out where the threat is going to appear from. So if you can work all that out, you can then measure the distance from where you are to where your threat's going to come out. And then simply zero your laser sight for that distance. Now, one thing you'll want to get that'll really save you a lot of time, money, and frustration is a laser bore sight. Now, on this specific bore sight, I'm going to do a whole video on it coming here soon, and I'll put a link in this video right up in the corner when it's done. But the bore sight really pays for itself, even with a handgun, because you think at the range, with ammo that costs money and time, chasing the green dot around the paper target, trying to get the thing zeroed, it can be a pain. Especially, if you're jerking the trigger or just anything, it makes it hard. So with the bore sight, all that goes away. You don't even have to fire around. The way this works basically is it just goes right inside the barrel of your gun. Just twist a little bit, that changes the size, and then you can put it in, tighten it up a little bit, and then just jam it in there. Now, to turn it on, just twist that. We'll turn our laser on, okay? And we'll go out to, let's say this coat rack again is our target distance. So now you can see the red point of impact is different than the green point of aim. So to fix that, all we have to do is adjust our windage and elevation. So first we'll do the windage, okay? Just bring the dots together. Alright, so that's pretty much lined up, and then we'll do the elevation. And there we are. Both dots are now touching. The point of aim is exactly the same as the point of impact at this specific distance.